When gathering your supplies, make sure the small siphon tube can fit inside the collection cup sprayer. And for the 2 long siphon tubes, make sure that they can fit on the hand pump, as well as reach from the Temperate Skimmer reaction chamber all the way to the Temperate Skimmer sump filter socks. Don't forget, get the 3/8 inch socket wrench from RIP. Remember, it's important to lock out and tag out equipment so others know when equipment is being worked on. Remember that the person whose name is on the tag is the only one who can take off the tag after maintenance is over. So, whenever you start a project, make sure you have time to complete it. It's important to remember to wear gloves when working on the protein skimmer, so you don't get fish detritus on your bare skin, unlike the person in this video. Here is when you'll need to use that small siphon tube I mentioned earlier. This will help give you better control over water flow when cleaning. This is the control knob for the sprayer. The on position is when it's parallel to the pipe. The off position is when it's perpendicular. Always unplug the pumps before closing the ball valve. If the pumps run dry, they can become damaged and break. Using a siphon tube, siphon starter, and bucket, siphon out any remaining water in the collection cup before removal, so you don't spill any water during the removal process. When unscrewing the bolts, make sure to keep them in the same order, as they are quite finicky when trying to put them back in.
3 hours later.
Set the collection cup on a bucket so it doesn't drip on the floor.
Eventually.
Begin this next step by removing the Temperate sump lid. This is where you will need those 2 long siphon hoses that fit onto the hand pump. What this person is doing in the video is using that hand pump to remove the suspended detritus in that water column and move it through the filter socks into the Temperate sump. That way, we can reuse the water in our system. We reassembled the gaskets by making sure all the bolts were poking through the holes and clamping by section to ensure it all stayed together. Try not to turn it completely upside down or all the bolts will fall out. When starting to realign the gaskets, make sure that the silver markings on the gaskets line up with the silver markings on the skimmer tube. When realigning, work in sections to make sure all the bolts are fitting into the holes. Then, slowly remove the clamps once you're positive the bolts are properly aligned in the holes. To do this, screw the bolts in a little with your hands to make sure there's no resistance and that they're all fitting properly. You may need to apply pressure to the gaskets, or this can mess up with the alignment. You may also need to wiggle the bolts using force to make sure they're properly in the holes. Make sure to tighten in a star pattern to ensure all the bolts are being tightened to the same amount and that the gaskets are completely and evenly sealed. This will ensure that no water will leak through the gaskets after you turn the skimmer back on. Remember to always open the valve first before plugging the pumps back in and turning them on so that the pumps don't run dry. Remember, this will damage them if you don't do it in the proper order. Lastly, what you're going to do is collect RO water to run through the rotometer. This will help get rid of any salt creep that has built up in those pipes. Make sure to drain out that RO water as much as possible because this can affect the meter reading. What happens is when that water gets trapped in the rotometer, it puts pressure on that ball gauge, which affects the reading. So make sure to come back in 10 minutes and make sure that the meter is reading properly after you've given it enough time to dry off. make sure to put all the tools you used back in their proper location. Remember, we don't want to make staff angry. Thanks for watching, and good luck with that Temperate Skimmer deep clean. You'll need it.